most of it's on personnel acquisitions. I've always liked Carolina's defense. They got Samuel, who I liked in college. They got McCaffrey. And I thought Cam was so awful and getting ripped, he'd bounce back. Mostly that's been true. My bounce back team next year, I already know what it is San Francisco. Okay. I thought they had a very good defensive draft at the top. I've been told they're going to go heavy offense with their first 4 picks, and they got Garoppolo. So tell me, I hear you've got some inside stuff on Garoppolo. He starts this week. What do you like? What worries you? Big time picture.
Well, I think as a player, I think everyone's excited to see him take the field for the San Francisco 49ers. Part of the excitement is the flashes that we've seen when he was at New England. The 2 games that he played, he looked great. The ball comes out. He's accurate. He has athleticism that you want to see. He has this leadership ability that you kind of buy into, thinking that, look, he can be a legitimate big-time quarterback. You're willing to pay big money for that. San Francisco is actually sitting in the catbird seat because they have so many things that they can do with Jimmy Garoppolo right now in the fold. They gave up a second-round pick to get him. They can retain him, sign him to a franchise tag, maybe even sign him to a long-term deal if they like what they see over the next couple of weeks. Even in spite of that, there is a school of thought where the San Francisco 49ers still could be in the quarterback market for Kirk Cousins. You could have a situation where they could sign Kirk Cousins maybe to a free agent deal. They could have Jimmy Garoppolo as a dangling trade piece to continue to fortify what is available to them in the draft. They're going to have a high pick. Say you trade Jimmy G for another high pick, and you're really trying to rebuild it with the quarterback that you wanted all along. You now have a couple of top first-round picks to go with the rest of the stuff that you have and a bunch of cap space. So for the Niners, it's a no-lose situation unless he absolutely falls apart and falls on his face. And I just don't see that happening because I think Kyle Shanahan is too good of a play caller to put him in a situation where he won't look good. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will look real good the next few weeks, and it only will enhance his value to the Niners or to another team that may be interested in Jimmy G.
What's the story behind the story with Eli Manning's benching?
I mean, the story behind the story, I think the dirty little secret would be the New York Giants are in a situation where they have a top 5 pick potentially. And if we say that the 2018 quarterback class is what it is, I'm going to say that maybe the New York Giants have determined that of all those quarterbacks, maybe there are 2 dudes that are legit. And we'll say maybe it's the SC guy and the UCLA guy. And it's a huge gap between the others.
That's what I'm hearing from the scouts I trust.
Okay, so if those are the 2 guys that we know are at the top of the board, and you're the New York Giants, and you know Eli Manning may have a year or so, if that, why put yourself in a situation where you can't get the bell of the ball? Why put yourself in a situation where you can't get the quarterback that you believe could be your franchise quarterback for a decade? Think about the Indianapolis Colts and what happened to them with Peyton Manning. They turn around, they get Andrew Luck. They go right back to being the team that they've always been at the top of the bill. The New York Giants, they just wanted to pull him out at halftime. He balked at that. The Giants know that if you have the veteran quarterback on the field, he may will his way to a win or 2. They won't go on record and say that they don't want that. But if you're an executive and you're looking, why would I want this team to be 4-12?
You don't.
What good does it do?
You stink either way.
Right, you're stuck. So if I'm going to be as bad as we can get to get the best player that we can get, and if we think that one of those quarterbacks can be a guy that can be a cornerstone for 10 years,
you got to get him.
Put ourselves in position to be there. And I think that's what it is. They can't go on record and say that, but I'm sure that has to be a discussion when you're looking at this and why the timing of this move came. Look, we can play Geno, we can play Davis. Well, yeah, we can see where they are. Maybe one of those guys can be a backup, but our eyes are towards 2018 and who is going to be the future at the position. That's ultimately what they want to do.
By the way, don't scouting departments, they're a year ahead. They may think Darnold and Rosen are the best quarterbacks for the next 2 to 3 years. When you were a scout, you're always well aware of what's coming down the pipeline.
You know what's in the 2018 class, what's in the 2019 class.
There is no 2018 quarterback. This draft, next year's quarterback, I mean, I follow this because I have no life. I don't think it's a very good quarterback draft.
Well, I mean, it's certainly not the names unless Sam Darnold decided to stay in or Josh Rosen decided to stay in. But no, right now, 2018, if you're sitting in the top 5 and you feel like those are the 2 best guys, you put yourself in a position to make sure you get those guys because those are franchise changers.
Okay, Sammy in the control room. Nobody knows who Sammy is except I do, the best-dressed guy in our business.
Great socks.
Great socks. Sammy, put up that Tom Brady graph we had. So Brady, we did a deep dive today. Brady is still great, but he is aging. Here are his starts the last 5 years after his 12th game of the year. Good numbers, certainly. Not legendary. Tom's aging. He gets to week 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Not quite great. I mean, you're seeing 7 TDs, 3 touchdowns, 3 games. So when Belichick is snarky and makes fun of reporters who ask a legitimate question, which is, have you thought about pulling him out for, have you thought about that? And you know, Belichick always snarks. You've been, I mean, I think resting him week 17 and you go into a bye. If you let him play week 16, if you have a bye for the playoffs, which they will, and you rest him, he gets 20 days off before a playoff run. Like, I think that's valuable. Do you think they ever even consider, have you ever been around a team that did that?
Oh, absolutely. You do that. Now, I don't know if Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are this school of thought, but I played in Green Bay, and in West Coast offenses or teams that kind of come from that San Francisco tree, they certainly believe in taking care of their veterans. And so when I was in Green Bay, we had Reggie White. Reggie White, older guys, those guys would get days off. They would get veteran days. When I was in Kansas City, Marcus Allen was 36, 37 at the time. They would give him days off. He wouldn't practice as hard as some of the young guys because those are your stars. Those are your vets. The most important thing to do is to get them there on Sunday.
Yes.
They're kind of like the Corvette that we only drive on Sundays. Just bring them out on Sundays. We can deal with the other stuff during the week. And so for Tom Brady, I think the stat that you bring up is real after the 12th game because when you play in New England, you play in Foxborough, it's cold. When you're an older player and it's cold, those hits feel differently. The ball doesn't fly as far. It's like being a golfer. The ball doesn't fly as far in cold weather as it does in warm weather. So to preserve Tom Brady would probably be a good thing going into the playoffs, regardless of whether you're the 1 seed or the 2 seed. They know they can win on the road or at home. It doesn't really matter for them. But the most important thing is to get their best player into the postseason tournament as healthy as you can.
By the way, before we go, Cam Newton drives me nuts. And I think a lot of it is because not just his play, which is all over the map, but I tend to think I use the term quarterback-eel. He's got almost a perimeter player's personality. He is big. He's over the top. He's highly emotional. Like if you were drafting today with what you know, even this year, last weekend he was absolutely awful. He was 11 for 28, and if you watched the Jets game, I'm sure you did, Bucky.
I did.
It was as bad as he's ever been.
It's bad.
If you knew what you knew today about him, would you draft him number 1?
I would draft him in most drafts number 1 just because the talent is remarkable. And what he did coming out of Auburn, you saw a guy take Auburn and basically put him on the back and lead him to a national title. The thing that makes it difficult for Cam to play at a very consistent level, he's not necessarily a fundamentally sound player. When you watch him throw, his feet aren't necessarily attached to his eyes. He throws off the back foot. He throws from odd platforms. But he's so gifted that he's been able to get away with it. Now, as you become an older player, it is more important that your fundamentals are sound.
Yes.
That's why Drew Brees and Tom Brady and some of those guys can play into their high 30s and 40s because the fundamentals are solid. With Cam, because he's been a guy that is leaned purely on his talent as opposed to his footwork and the fundamentals, it's going to be harder for him to be a more consistent player when his athleticism and talent kind of comes back to the pack.
Good seeing you, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Only 2 words you need to remember while making your list and checking it twice this holiday season, and that is Tommy John, the revolutionary men's underwear brand that has redesigned and redefined comfort for men, including me. Never aware of underwear until I tried this 3 years ago. Now I'm wearing it today, and I wear it to sleep. Constantly thinking of new ways to help guys feel great, that's what Tommy John does. Give the gift of life-changing comfort for the holidays. Go to TommyJohn.com and get an exclusive gift with your purchase of $150 or more. Plus, get 20% off your first purchase with a promo code HERD, H-E-R-D. Terms and conditions apply. See TommyJohn.com for details. $150. Purchase that much, 20% off, and an exclusive